Okay, so if you guys have just watched just the first 4 videos, it's probably kind of confusing, so I want to kind of introduce my biggest reason for opening this channel, and that is the court-related abuse and harassment, and I wanted to point out exactly through documents, police reports, court records, exactly what happened so that others can pay attention and not allow this to happen to themselves. And so that whoever is watching this and whoever I send this to will be able to sort of piece this whole thing together without too much problem. So this is the timeline, guys. In the escape video, there are several videos of Chris and him behaving very badly, to say the least. Anyway, I put those up first because I wanted to give a picture of what I was dealing with to start, just to start, not even diving into the logistics of the case, just the very basics of this case and what I was going through. It later will help you understand the dynamics of the end of this case, which is where I need the most help. But so the timeline for this, November 2nd, 2016. That was Chris's birthday. We had just moved into our townhouse, and there was an assault because he was not happy at all with the fact that I did not go all out for his birthday. The police were called out. However, Chris left and agreed to stay gone for the night, so nothing happened. November 7th, that is the night where we have the events that caused me to file for divorce and immediately obtain a restraining order. So November 8th is the day that I filed for divorce. So that's when this whole thing sort of starts. So we've got several pre-set up dates that we have to attend, things that we have to do in order to get our divorce, because we were both pro se, we were both representing ourselves, so to speak. So on December 12th, we had a case management meeting where we sat down and agreed upon dates for our status conference, for our temporary orders hearing, and then our mediation, and then our final orders, our final divorce hearing. So that's what the status or the case management is for. So I went to that on December 12th, and so did Chris. I don't know what happened at that management hearing that caused Chris to sort of snap. But he did beg me for his clothing. It was very cold, and I did make arrangements to drop off his clothes for him. I had no idea that he was going to be in the state that he was in when I arrived. Nonetheless, that's December 12th. So December 16th at my home, Amanda Lance, Christopher's girlfriend, had one of her employees come and throw some paperwork in my daughter's face, my disabled daughter, I might add, throw papers in her face as she answered the door. And it knocked my daughter over. And so the police were called for that. It's nice of Amanda to send her people over to do that to my daughter. Nonetheless, so on January 18th, we've got the status conference, which is with the judge that's going to hear our entire divorce. Chris chose on that day to try to get a restraining order against me. He was denied, and then he chose to show up 50 minutes late for our hearing with Judge Hunt. That hearing, Chris, explained to him that I was not giving him access to his belongings, and of course, that's where this whole other stuff starts off too. So January 26th was our temporary orders hearing with Magistrate Goki. Chris began complaining to Magistrate Goki really first that he was not getting access to his stuff, which is wholly untrue. But Magistrate Goki, she ordered 3 different days for Chris to come to the home to pick up his belongings. Also note that Chris was stopped during that during cross-examination from cross-examining me, probably because he was hostile. And there's a code that she quotes in the minute orders, but I'm not sure really what that is. I have to, I know it has something to do with harassment and embarrassment. Nonetheless, Magistrate Goki stopped him from questioning me. I was not allowed to question him, which is a good thing. And then Magistrate Goki says that Chris's sworn financial statement was found to be so inaccurate as to not be reliable. Side note here, Chris submitted 4 different sworn financial statements in 4 months. So on March 3rd, we had our mediation. And so this is where we left mediation and Chris was upset. He was mad because I didn't want to see him and I refused to go into a room with him to talk to him because I had started to deduct that every time he saw me, I would be assaulted immediately. So I didn't want to see him and I didn't want to talk to him. I wanted to remain safe and I had that right. But again, later he called and that report is on a previous video if you want to see that. Okay, so we get 20 days later, Chris has been arrested. They did not, they dropped the charges. 20 days passes and we go to our final divorce hearing on March 23rd. Chris again explains to this judge that I am completely uncooperative and not going to give him his stuff. He's just traumatized and he can't believe that, the courts aren't doing anything about me not giving him his stuff. So the court orders Chris to come to the home on March 24th, 25th, and 26th to pick up his stuff with a civil assist, of course. And guess what, guys? He didn't show. So March 23rd, at our final orders, our final divorce hearing, the judge had heard so much and was so confused by design that he wanted to take the case under advisement, and it took him 30 days, a little more than 30 days. On May 1st, we received our orders in the mail and our final decree. So Chris showed up on May 3rd without notice at all. And then on May 6th, 5 days after we received our orders, I had actually received the 2000 Subaru Legacy in the divorce. It was the only vehicle I was given. Chris literally had 4 other vehicles that he got in the divorce. So on May 6th, somebody shows up to repo my car. I'm thinking it's because the divorce, the bankruptcy, something's gone wrong. I don't really, contest it because I'm thinking that it's legal because they're there to repossess it. However, that wasn't the case. Chris paid the tow company to come and pick up his car and deliver it to his home. So I was under the belief that the car was repoed when in fact it had not been. He just took possession of my only vehicle. On May 26th, Chris files a contempt charge against me claiming I am not cooperating and refusing to give him his belongings. So immediately after receiving our divorce decree and final orders on May 1st, I put together my schedule and gave Chris an additional 9 days and my schedule to, sort of make him aware of what was going on so that he wouldn't just show up. But I gave him an additional 9 days and made myself available for those 9 days that he never came for. So this is a property report from the Arvada Police Department. It goes over a year that I lived in the townhome when all of this happened. So on the left, you're going to see all these dates in white. Those are dates that Chris was given to come to the home to pick up his stuff, ordered as a matter of fact, or, provided by me in agreement. So you can see on the right, Chris did not show up for any one of those dates, not one. He just showed up whenever he wanted to. But he chose on May 26th to go ahead and file a contempt. Why? Because this guy likes to keep me in court. This is the court abuse that I'm talking about. He keeps me in court. This is his way of continuing his control and his abuse. So in the next few slides, you guys are going to see his contempt citation from May 26th. So in this, he complains that I am not cooperating. I am ordered to cooperate with him. However, uh, he doesn't show up when he's supposed to, so how can I cooperate? But nonetheless, um, I'll just let you guys go ahead and look at the contempt citation, and it's an oxymoron, to be honest. Okay, guys, so if you haven't seen my video, The Escape, stop and go back and watch it. If you've seen it, then you can already see, without even mentioning any domestic violence in my marriage, why I will not allow Chris now to come anywhere near my kids or myself. And furthermore, my kids had seen enough. They've been diagnosed, we have all been diagnosed with severe PTSD due to his abuse. When he did come around, it was on days that he wasn't supposed to be there. And so my kids were home. Even without seeing him, just knowing that he was close by would just terrify my kids. We don't trust him or anything that has to do with him. He was our abuser. Why would we trust him? So I want to kind of wrap some of this up for you. You've got Chris, who at every turn is desperately trying to either control me or instill fear, intimidate me, threaten me, harass me, some level, some sort of violence at every turn. After every hearing, I figured out that maybe seeing me, yeah, I certainly didn't want to see him, but I wasn't given a choice. I had to see him. I had to stand next to him in a courtroom, so that just gave him more opportunity to sort of dive into his mental state that causes him to go into these rages. I don't know, but it triggered something, him seeing me, and it was continuously harming me. And so what a person does is they learn very quickly, every time this man sees me, something bad happens. And so eventually you get to a point where you dread seeing this person because you have no idea what's going to happen. It just keeps getting worse, every time. It escalates. And so at what point in time is it going to get so bad that he's going to take my life? So with this portion of this thing I'm doing, I wanted to just sort of point out, his absolute inability to comply with the court orders, and point out how these people can get away with it. And I say these people, I meant the abusers. But it by design, I'm sure it's by design. I don't doubt for a second that Chris wanted to continuously. He couldn't do it. I wasn't in the house with him anymore. He couldn't do it to me, on a daily. And so, in order for him to get what he wanted, he had to try to, feed his ego. I don't know. Um, he has to try to maintain control somehow. It's a source of power. He fear is his drug of choice. Instilling fear, I should say. But I wanted to point out the way he's abusing and manipulating the court, making me look like I'm doing something wrong, yet he's not doing anything he is supposed to do. And I haven't even touched on what he's done as far as fraud is concerned inside of the divorce with the financials and all that kind of good stuff. That to me is not even important. I don't care. For me, I want to really hone in on the abuse and how it is completely opposite of fact. And in the end, I suffer great damages for this. As for the contempt citation, he had no legal standing and should never have even been able to get this through, but he did. It's the story of my life.